Good morning, everyone. It's Rollie, and welcome to Chatting with Wisdom. So, as you all know, Chatting with Wisdom is about bringing women together, and it's about being able to inspire women. And so, I have the privilege of being able to interview incredible women. So, today I'm bringing Sharon Bolt. So, Sharon is known as the mindset media expert. She helps coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs to get ongoing publicity so that they can get in front of thousands or even millions of their dream clients as they go to as the go-to authority in their niche. She also focuses on helping them change their limiting beliefs, sabotaging behaviors, and negative expectations so that they attract the best media opportunities, feel confident, and reach their full potential. Sharon has been a business owner and entrepreneur for over 20 years. Her businesses have included complementary therapies, dog training, and PR. And during the last 14 years, she has contributed to more than 50 different local and national newspapers, magazines, TV, and radio shows, and has received over 1.5 million 2 million in free publicity and free advertising. Sharon is a regular contributor to entrepreneur.com, has written for the HuffPost, and has been interviewed on some of the top podcast shows from all around the world. She is also the co-author of 2 highly acclaimed books called Successful Women in Business and Every Entrepreneur's Guide, Running Your Own Business. Sharon has been featured on BBC, ITV, and Channel 5 TV shows, and has had a regular slot on BBC Radio since 2008, where she answers listeners' questions. So, congratulations. So, how are you?
I'm good, Rollie. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
So, this is pretty exciting. You're pretty top notch in here. So, as most of my listeners know, I don't prepare ahead of time. So as I'm reading your bio, it's like, oh, wow, this is incredible. Simply because I want to make sure that we are having these authentic conversations. And so that's really important for me to be able to have that. So this is great. And so I learned so much about you in this very short period of time. So, so we were just talking just before you come on just before we came on, that it is 10 a.m. here and 3 p.m. down in Sharon's way. So quite the time difference. And that's one of the things that I think is so incredible about being able to do these interviews, is that we get to meet women from all over the world. And so one of the things that I noticed just before we were coming on is the 2 books. So are those the 2 books that were in your bio that we were just talking about?
That's right, Rollie. Yes.
That's nice. We have little gnats that are in here, and I just swallowed one.
Oh, dear.
They're little bugs from the plants. We've got some new plants, and we can't seem to get rid of these bugs. And I just swallowed one. Yay for me. I got some protein.
It's a bush tucker trial.
So tell me a little bit more about you. So we had your bio about who you are that way, but who is Sharon?
Well, I live in the UK, and I think things really changed for me because it was back in 2007. I had this thriving business. It was a complementary therapy practice. So I was helping people with bad backs, and it was digestive disorders, fears, phobias. I was doing, and I loved it. It was so rewarding. And I love that I played a part in that. But I got these 2 Parson Russell Terrier puppies. They were brothers from the same litter. And it just changed my life and career, to be honest, Rollie, because suddenly my passion had changed from complementary therapies and working directly with people to really wanting to help dog owners and work with dogs. And I wanted to start a new business. I had this dream, but I didn't have a budget. It was a pipe dream. I didn't know what to do. I had no followers. I had no website. I just literally had nothing. And then I heard on the radio, it was BBC Radio 2, which is a national radio station here in the UK. There's millions and millions of listeners. And they said that they were going to get a dog training expert on the show. And I thought to myself, well, I can do that. I had been getting such amazing results with my dogs, with other people's dogs. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. So that's what I did. I pitched the show. In fact, I pitched them 3 times because they didn't respond the first 2. And I just thought, no, I can help. I can make a difference here. And it was the following, well, it was a few days later, I sat in the London studios, all very posh it was, being interviewed live on air in front of millions and millions of people as a dog training expert and somebody who was able to give lots of tips and advice. And it was bizarre, you know, people couldn't believe I had done it, but I knew I could make a difference, so I went for it.
And I love how you said, like, you pitched them 3 times. It was like you didn't take no for an answer. You just persevered and you just kind of pushed through. Is that kind of one of the things is that kind of one of the tips that you have for people today?
It is, Rollie, and it's very much, this is why I'm the mindset media expert, because not only do I deal with the media, I mean, that was the beginning of not only my dog training business, but it was also my publicity journey. And I really noticed that the big crucial thing that was different that I found with myself was that my mindset. You know, people were saying to me after, oh, I couldn't do that. You know, what if that awful what if it goes wrong game that people play out? You know, what if they ask you a question you don't understand? What if you mess up in front of millions of people? You know, it's that type of thing that people will play out. And I like to play the what if it goes really well game instead. So I've, you know, as the years have progressed and I got more and more media exposure, so I had then a thriving dog training business. Nowadays, my business and my online courses sell all over the world, but I really focus now. My passion is on publicity. I just love it. It's so much fun and it can make a tremendous difference to your business, as happened to me overnight.
And that's really incredible. Like, so I know that when we have people come on to do Chatting with Wisdom, and we're by no means to the level of publicity that you've had, but we have but our listeners, they listen, but it's about that true, authentic conversation of having, like, where are things at, which is one of the reasons why I never prepare ahead of time, because I want it to be authentic. We are meeting each other for the first time and having these conversations, and I love how the conversations go. And I guess it's probably about a year ago now, I had someone who we had met. We had some technical difficulties. We did the recording, but the recording didn't happen. Things just didn't happen the way that they were supposed to. And so what we ended up doing is having the interview again the next day, and it went live. But the conversation went completely different than it did the first time. And it was just really interesting how just having a conversation can shift your patterns, because it was a different view. It was a different look. It was a different conversation that we were having the following day. And it's just really incredible about just being able to just be ourselves. And because when we run into each other on the street, we don't have a script with us, do we?
It's true, isn't it? And I love that organic way as well. And most media interviews, I mean, obviously podcast shows can be a bit more scripted, but if you're talking traditional media, such as TV, radio and newspapers, it's not scripted, it's organic. It's, you know, sometimes if it is a newspaper article or, you know, sometimes people, a journalist or researcher may ask you for some talking points. But other than that, it is organic. So, and I love that too. I think it's natural.
And it really is, because then it really has that that ability of being able to tap in. So we always have a topic. So today we're talking about getting free publicity, which is what we're talking about, but also about why mindset is crucial to your success, right? So these are the things that are, like, so important for us to be able to talk about how to be able to change and shift those thinking. And so not everybody who listens are an entrepreneur, but it applies in our own personal lives as well. And so do you want to talk a little bit more about the mindset, Sharon?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's so powerful, isn't it? And as you rightly say, Rollie, in all areas of our lives, not just business, but personal lives as well. Whether we think we can do something or we think we can't, we're usually right. And what I think is really funny is we pat ourselves on the back as well. Oh, I told you that wouldn't go well. I knew that would go wrong. We end up patting ourselves on the back and congratulating ourselves. But the same is true also if we start practicing those stories in our head about things going really well and turning out the way we want it to be. I like to visualize before I'm doing things, and certainly at the beginning of my day, I like to visualize and feel and see how things are going to play out. And so you're putting out that energy in front of you, that mindset's already up and running, so that it does take practice. I'm not saying it changes overnight, and sometimes we have to fine tune, but just keep going with that, keep practicing. And certainly if it's something big and you want, it could be an interview, it could be you're going on a date, it could be anything. You start to picture inside your head, and not everybody can visualize, and that doesn't matter. We can hear how it goes, we can feel how it goes. Using all those senses is really powerful, but it's like practicing the mindset. It is a muscle. Just like, if we're building a muscle in our arms or legs or anywhere in our body, the mind is also a muscle. So it's not a one thing you do and then, oh yeah, I'm okay now. You practice it daily, and that's what strengthens that mindset.
And it really is, I like what it is that you said, is that not everybody, because this is one of the things that I hear when I have people that are that we're setting up for meditation, and they're like, but I don't see anything. You don't have to see anything. It can just be those using your other senses. So you're feeling like we have 5 senses, and they're 5 senses for a reason, because we are stronger in one than the other. And I love the fact that you pointed that out, even with being able to visualize what it is that you want to have happen. I know that my husband always says, oh, you always like plan these things out, and I plan them out so that I know how I would like things to go. Doesn't mean that it's going to go exactly that way. And he's like, but it doesn't always happen that way. No, it doesn't. But at least I have an idea of like what it is that it's going to happen, and have things planned out, and just allows things to be able to shift so that it changes that energy, and it changes that perspective. And if something does not go exactly as planned, then it's like, okay, so then and if it was something that wasn't positive, then like, how can we readjust? But a lot of times things positively will actually come out of that. And if you actually find that positive, it's like, oh, that's what happened out of that. Right. So
yes. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And also, I mean, as you rightly say, Rollie, I think we are more dominant in a particular sense. I tend to be more auditory. But even so, I've practiced that visualization so that, that is really quite strong with me now. It wasn't at the onset, at the beginning of things. But what I say to people, because they as you rightly said there, people say, yeah, but I can't visualize. I don't see things. I don't picture things. And I say to them, well, close your eyes just for a moment. And what color is your front door? Is there a letterbox? Is there a door knocker? What number is on the door? And of course, they're seeing that as they're responding back. So that just sort of like tells people, we can all do it, but some of us have to practice more in that particular area than others.
And when we have to practice, that's where we find it takes, that it becomes more challenging in terms of being able to fit that into our time, isn't it?
Yes. But it's right? So worth it. So worth it.
So, because it's just really important for us to be able to have that ability of what do we do next? How are we going to be doing this? And so, so the mindset is one of the biggest things. So now, now the other part of the talk today is how to be able to get the free publicity. So, like, how does that happen?
Well, I mean, one of the best ways is just to see what's going on currently. I mean, if we go back to my story where I got on national radio. There's around 6 million listeners on the show. It was my first media experience. In fact, it was funny because I had enrolled with a PR company, and in fact, they had got me a couple of little interviews locally in the newspapers. But I wanted to go big. I wanted to go for it. I've got a message to share. I want to get on the big platforms. And they just didn't agree with that. And so they were trying to keep me small. I was wanting to go big. So that's why I pitched the radio show myself. But the reason why I was successful is because they were looking for somebody. Now, they did mention they were going to get somebody that was already on the TV, somebody that was well known. But I didn't let that put me off. The thing to remember with journalists, they are extremely busy people. So if you just land up in front of them and say, listen, I can do this for you and your listeners, and I can educate, I can inform, I can do, it's all about them, not about us. This is the number one biggest mistake business owners make when they try to get publicity, is that they tend to talk about themselves. And of course, journalists want to know what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. So I knew enough about that to, when I was doing the pitching, I made it all about them. But it was current, and this is really the message. What is currently going on in the news that you can either show up and contact somebody so that they don't have to do any work. All they need to do is say yes. You just need to convince them that you are good at what you do. And by what I mean by that is to convince them that you are a good interview. You can entertain, you can inform, you can educate. At the bottom, yes, you're going to say a bit about you, but they're not really interested in that. They didn't ask me at all my previous history. They spoke to me on the phone. They did a mini interview. They didn't say it was that, but that's what was going on. And then 3 days later, I was live in the studio. So really look at what is going on currently that you can hook your business onto. I mean, particularly say like with the Olympics, all that's going on there. A mindset media coach would be fantastic at this moment to be pitching the story ideas, because there's intense pressure and stress. So it's really about finding how you can hook your business onto what's going on currently.
That's really interesting. So how do you find these things? So people that are watching, like how would you find them? So I know that it's like watching the news and like that kind of thing. So, but like, what are some of the other things that they might be able to do to be able to get in front of some of these bigger places?
Well, the best thing is to follow the news. That really is it, because obviously everything has to be newsworthy. It's what's going on currently now. So it is keeping up with the news, but also things like on social media. The number one place that journalists hang out is on Twitter. And I know a lot of business owners and that, or just don't bother with Twitter, but that is a very common place for journalists. So, go searching, go looking for people, and you'll find these people just by reading newspapers. A lot of people will just say who, they'll give their Twitter handle or their LinkedIn handle. They give you the information, their email a lot of the time, and then keep following them. Be social with them. Don't pitch them on social media. That's not the thing to do unless they ask. But they will often say that they're looking for case studies in a particular area. So just really stay current, find out what are the best journalists for you in your niche, and then just be social with them, like what they're doing, share what they're doing. So you're building a relationship. It's all about relationships.
And isn't that what we are as humans? Right? So it's all about relationships. Everything that we do connects us to people. So people that are watching today, people that are watching 2 days from now, people that are watching 6 months from now, and or listening, because now this is on podcasts as well. But like we have all these different things that allows us to be able to connect socially with others, and having the technology of being able to do this like literally around the world. right? So like you're way ahead in terms of time to where we are. And so, but yet we get to still come together and connect. But it's still always about that connection and having made those, had those conversations.
Yes, it is, and I think what I find is really interesting is a lot of people think that journalists are unapproachable, that they're scary. They're not. They're just like you and I. They're just people. They're doing a job, and they have such tight deadlines. So sometimes they can be a little bit blunt, but don't take that personally. They're trying to meet certain deadlines, and they need the information now. It's that type of thing. So you have to be concise, you have to be clear, you have to get to the point. Stop the waffle. Journalists, they switch off if you start waffling. You've got to get to the point. And as I say, always make it about what you can do for them and not what they can do for you.
And I think that that's one of the things that is hard sometimes, right? Because we want to succeed, we want to move forward, we want to follow our plan and what it is that we want to be able to have accomplished. And I think that's probably one of the things that's the most challenging, is how do we actually step out of that seat of like, how is it about me? Like, well, I want it so that I can travel the world. I want to be able to provide for my family. I want to be able to, right? So being able to shift it, being able to shift it from that perspective to ourselves.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? But when you think about it as well, Rollie, is that when we're doing marketing, as a business owner, when you are doing any form of marketing, you always make it beneficial and how it can benefit your audience. You don't talk about you so much. Yes, some credibility stuff, of course, but it's really about them. It's not about us. It's, yes, we have the solution, but we make it about them and their problems and their pain and how we have the answers. So it's very similar to normal marketing, but for some reason, when people try to pitch the media, they tend to just it seems to flip for them, and they tend to make it about themselves rather than what they can do for the journalist.
And I like how you made that connotation, because I would have never put those two things together, because you're right. In terms of marketing, when my team asks me, okay, so what are they going to get out of this? Like, what's going to happen? How are we going to, what are the benefits? And it's always about, what can I do for you? Right. So like how, what are the experiences going to be for me? And so with the journalist and doing it that way makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it is exactly the same, and it's funny because with journalists they are laser targeted as well, because they have to have an eye. They've got really tight deadlines to meet a lot of the time. When news is happening, it's happening now. When it comes to old news, they don't want to know anymore. It's what's happening now. So yeah, they want to know, what can you do? What can you give me? And then very often in exchange for that, they will mention, obviously name you, and in most cases will say your company name, sometimes your website and that type of thing. So you will get a mention, and sometimes the feature will be very much about you too. But always make it the benefits, how you can educate, inform, and entertain their audience. That's what it is.
Well, and if you actually think about it, like, I don't know about anybody else. Like, I don't read the newspaper from cover to cover. I read the highlights, and it's like, oh, is that going to interest me? Is that going to interest me? So I think that that's basically right. Like, that's what it is that you're saying, is like, how are they going to be able to get that headline by pitching you? Like, how, with you pitching yourself, what is it going to get to that big bold highlight that's going to allow somebody to read the rest of the story?
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? And if things aren't interesting to, if we're going to pitch something, if it's not going to be interesting to other people other than maybe your mum and your partner and your best friend, for other people, if they're like, not really, then it's probably not going to be a good pitch.
Yeah. And that's just so important for us to be able to, because again, not even thinking about that, right? So how are you able to do that? Like I said, like I skim through, my husband reads the newspaper from cover to cover, but I don't. And then he'll say, well, did you read that article? No, it didn't interest me. So I just skim through that one.
Yeah.
And same as with social media. Like I skim through what is it that's picking up my information. And so there are certain news sites that I actually stay connected with because they generally have something that interests me. And others, they just kind of scroll through. Otherwise, I just keep going.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
But and it's all about being able to be front and center with what others need to know. And that's where the journalist's perspective is coming from, is how are these other people going to be interested?
Exactly. That's their job, you see. Their job is to educate and entertain their audience, because otherwise, as you rightly say, people are not reading and they're just skimming through, or they're not buying whatever, the publication, or watching the show or listening. So it's all about viewers, it's all about listeners, it's all about readers. So if they're not providing really good content for their listeners, and that's not all about, their listeners aren't going to want to learn all about your business unless it is a feature specifically about that. They want to know that you know what you're talking. You're presented, you're endorsed, in fact, as the expert in your field, because you are the one giving the content in that publication or on that show. So that's where the credibility comes in. That's where you do get that name check. And sometimes, there's no website, but people can soon Google you. So there's lots that you can do with that. But it's really about always making it about them and entertaining and educating. I know I'm going on about this. I'm even boring myself about it now. But I've got to get this message across, because the thing is, if people just carry on doing what they're doing, so many people say to me, oh yeah, I've tried to get publicity, it just doesn't work. It's for the people, the big companies. No, it's not. It's for small business owners too, but you've got to play the media game. And the media game is about giving them the content, making their job easy, and making them look good to their editors or their producers, and also naturally in the main product is their audience.
And one of the other things that you said is timelines, right? So I know a lot of people that's like, oh yeah, well, I don't really want to follow these particular timelines, but they have to have those deadlines. They have to have these things in at a certain time. And if you don't meet those, then they continue to move on and they put somebody else in your space.
Definitely, absolutely. Mm-hmm. There's plenty more experts in the sea.
I love that. So I can't believe that we have already talked for 30 minutes. This is insane.
Wow.
So we can probably go on forever in terms of being able to bring things forward. So is there something that you wanted to be able to share with the audience, so that they can, if they wanted to be able to connect more with you, or if they wanted to, is there something specific that you wanted to share?
Well, if they go to my website, which is getfreepublicitytoday.com, so that's all one word, getfreepublicitytoday.com. At the moment, I've got a free masterclass. So it's 5 steps that you need in order to get in front of your target market, in front of thousands or millions of people. So that's just something free if people want to just learn more from what we've spoke about today. And there's also some low-cost products and other services on my website too, if you'd like to engage more. And obviously, you can contact me through the website too. I don't know. I can't hear you, Rollie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hear me.
Oh, I can hear you now.
I apparently hit a button while I was actually posting. I was just saying I just put your link inside the conversation, inside the comments, so that people can actually go back and find you, as well as Teresa would have already had all of your the rest of your contacts in the description of today's capture, but it allows you to be able to go back and find it, and so it has her direct link. And so if you'd like to be able to connect more and learn more, then this is definitely your guru to be able to get to and have some learn to be able to be exposed to how to be able to get that publicity. So thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing your knowledge and for being here this afternoon, this morning for us, and taking the time out of your day. So thanks again. And for everyone else, I will see you guys next Wednesday. Bye for now.